All right, somebody,
Oh, okay.
somebody, can you join
I can
the
join.
Zoom?
I can join it. That's it out for you.
Thank you.
Oh,
I don't have the Zoom app. It won't let me. Somebody else gotta do it.
I can do it.
Alright.
I love Dan Hensel.
Should be prepared.
I love my local song.
You should be prepared.
Yeah, I never joined via Zoom, so
It's fun joining these.
I didn't come to an OUSC meeting virtually. And I'm really. I came to the very first meeting of last term because that was only virtual, if I remember right. Yeah. Oh, you can just do yours without.
Hello. Hello? Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
What did they do to my last name?
What?
That's
how it got exported?
I swear to God. All right, is that okay having the chat open like that?
Yeah, it's like, tell me how you get
Never
to.
like this.
There's way because they changed my name again. I literally manually changed it back to Ethan like 9 times. Who is so like I respect the hustle. You know what? It's nice, but it's
They won't stop detonating me.
I think they won't stop.
No.
What is your email?
What do you mean? Look at the membership list.
Oh,
No, that is.
Wait,
my
wait.
email. That is mine.
that's the one you use for writing icon, right?
That is actually what it is.
I thought it was maybe a typo because of the A's, but.
Nope, that's what it is.
Okay.
That's correct. Like literally, I got that postcard sent here, which is insane. By the way. Like at least they didn't send it to my house. But girl, why are you sending it?
I'm so smart. There's a woofer on steering that's like, oh, that's loud.
And it's like, no, I'm changing it so you can send mail home.
I think they definitely, that might be me. I was like, hey guys, please be careful about the dead people. Pretty please.
Oh, that's fair. They do that.
And now they're like, okay, well, we're coming up. No, now it's.
I feel like there should have like a little note, because there's enough trans people in the shop.
Well,
And they're like, hey, if it's not safe to send mail.
Has anybody
like,
joined
legally.
the call yet?
I'm trying to.
There's a test being made.
Oh, I have a question. Do I need to order anything with next year?
Okay, I'm gonna look in the locker and see if we got the box.
We never.
I didn't roll. We got
We ordered
something.
all right,
Oh, but
kid.
still.
Oh, I pinned it in the word chat. It was
Oh,
the first
that's
message.
perfect.
What? Enter your notes too, though. That's how I.
That's what I.
This is Bill. We hanging out in the office, he's chill. Last year, last term, I would like different parts in the office. I don't do that anymore, but.
It requires a good wiggle.
Like, hold on to it, you know, like, hold it down a little bit.
All right, my number just talk.
Turn it. Yeah.
Right, I'm assuming it's just like regular like law.
Yeah, that's everything.
Can you hear me?
Yep, that works.
Cool.
Yeah, now you can leave. Well, yeah. Clover, Chelsea's up 3-1. Score, James and Joe. And Anthony got a yellow card.
Oh, Anthony.
88th minute, 89th minute, almost 90th. It's not happening.
Also, wait,
No, why don't you still come back? Rose.
Hello, everybody. I'm going to call this meeting to order at 5:04 p.m. First, we'll be going into a roll call. When you hear your name, please say if you're present or present in voting. As chair of this meeting, I will be absent for this meeting and yielding my voting rights. Majority Leader Brummer,
Present and voting.
Chairperson Smith,
Present voting.
Chairperson Valdez, Chairperson Waters,
Present voting.
Parliamentarian Bella,
Present.
Legislator Barris, Legislator Childs.
He's here, just step down.
Stepped over, okay. Legislator Joswicki. Legislator Fayette,
Present voting.
Legislator Eveza,
Present.
Legislator Lunger. Legislator Maku, Legislator Markowitz,
Present.
Legislator Martino,
Present.
Legislator Mays. Legislator Mason. Legislator Nickel,
Excuse.
Legislator Obra,
Present.
Legislator Prashandaro.
Present.
Legislator Rosario,
Present.
Legislator Serbu,
Excuse.
Legislator Smith. Legislator Snell,
Present and voting.
Legislator Van Patten,
Present voting.
Legislator Wiegand,
Present.
Legislator Wolf. And with that, we need more. Next up, we'll head into our land acknowledgement. Further, we recognize the wrongs done to those forcibly removed from their homelands and commit to fostering an environment of inclusion that is responsive to the needs of First Peoples through our words, policies, and actions. Next up, we'll move into the approval of the agenda. Are there any motions to amend the agenda at this time? Seeing none, we'll move into a voice vote. Are there any nays at this time? Any yeas?
Yay.
And with that, the agenda has been passed. With that, we'll move into approval of the guest speakers. Having none, we'll move into announcements. Are there any announcements at this time? Seeing none, we'll move into old business. There is no old business, so with that, we'll move into new business. Starting with CR 6801, this is presented by President Johnson. You have the floor.
Wonderful. So I'm finally able to present this thing. So as you all know, this is the same resolution we passed last year, affirming our support for DEI on campus and the offices therein that fall under that. It's the exact same resolution we passed last year, but because those expire at the end of each term, we have to pass it again for it to be relevant going forward. If you like, I can go through for all of the new folks, the sentiments of the resolution, but if not, I'm more than happy to yield for questions.
I was just gonna say, could you have me as a supporter? I could have sworn I was, but I'm not.
Oh, are you not? I literally just made a comment.
Oh, am I? I'm blind. Okay.
Right after.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you. I yield.
Just,
Legislator Martino.
Please have me as a supporter as well.
you wanna do just the hands up thingy again?
Yeah, anybody that would like to be added as a supporter, please raise your hands.
There we go. I figured that would happen.
Majority Leader Brummer, do you have anything to say, or are you raising your hand for to be added as a supporter?
Just to be added as a supporter.
Okay, thank you.
That's it.
I did the same
Real
thing.
quick, sorry,
Did the exact same.
Legislator Snell.
sorry, just to make sure you guys are aware. I believe Hannah Kotsopoulos is misspelled in this, as well as Jesse Ratzloff's name.
Give me 1 second, I'll get to that. Is there anybody I'm missing from the list right now? Director Lisicki.
For purposes of the minutes, should I include the name of everyone who's asked to be added as a supporter now, or just a number of legislators who have done so?
I would say add the individual people who have done it.
For the record, can you, at least have a printed list of who was added today so that that can be added to the minutes before their approval?
I'll just say it starts at Vincenzo right there.
Okay, so just everyone who is listed for instance, Vincenzo on is printed there.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Save your time while I'm finishing this up. Is there any discussion for the CR 6801? Chairperson Waters.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm listed as a supporter on this bill. That is remaining the case. I just think that this is a very fine bill and, resolution. When we passed it last year, pretty, with a wide margin, and I think that there's no issue passing it again, so. That's all I gotta say. Thank you for that, I yield the floor.
Any other points of discussion? Seeing none, we'll move into a vote. Majority Leader Brummer,
Yay.
Chairperson Smith,
Yay.
Chairperson Waters,
Yay.
Legislator Longer, do you have a point?
Legislators missing on the list, or is that everyone that's present today?
I believe it is everyone present.
Thank you.
Chairperson Waters,
Yay.
Legislator Frey, is that?
Yeah.
Legislator Snell,
Yay.
Legislator Van Patten, Chairperson Valdez.
Yay.
Parliamentarian Bella,
Yay.
Legislator Barris, Legislator Jeswicki, Legislator Avesa,
Yay.
Legislator Longer,
Yay.
Legislator Maku, Legislator Markowitz,
Yay.
Legislator Martino,
Yay.
Legislator Obra,
Yay.
Legislator Christian.
Yay.
Legislator Rosario,
Yay.
Legislator Wiegand, Legislator Wolf,
Yay.
all right, with that, CR 6801 has passed. All right. Next on the agenda, we have CR 6802. This will be presented by Chairperson Smith. Chairperson Smith, you have the floor.
Thank you, thank you. So for the record, CRCC 802 is a piece of legislation that I've passed now in 2 different terms. This is going up for the 3rd time. If you could scroll down to the whereas section / yeah, that's good. So basically, without reading this verbatim word for word what it is, in the MyCell system, which we all use as students of Open University, there's a preferred name system you can put in. If for people who just like prefer a different name, like a nickname or something, or for trans students who often change their name. And sometimes on mail, external communications documents, that preferred name will appear on it, which you would think is cool, except for if it is sent to somebody's parents' home, which do not approve of them being trans or do not know and do not approve. And that can prove to be a very dangerous thing. When I wrote this, I had not experienced this myself, but I now have several points and it has become very dangerous. And I've had several talks with several people, several administrative officials about how we can fix this, what we can work towards. And currently, it's have been worked on. It's been worked on in the past. It's currently being worked on to just try and minimize external preferred name usage as much as possible. So what this resolution essentially does is just student Congress being like, hey, remember this thing? You should continue to focus on it because it's important and it's very dangerous for some people like me. So yes, Open University Student Congress calls upon the Open University administration to continue its efforts to minimize preferred name usage on external university communications. With that, I yield to questions.
Legislator Bishendaro.
How common is external communication, like through mail that would go to like a student's home, stuff like that? Like, as a follow-up, like, why is it taking them so long on this?
Okay, so there's no like, obviously there's no like statistic being like, oh, this is how much mail we send. Of course, there's like promotional mail, which happens all the time, which, given my experience and given what I've heard, it's like a mixed bag on whether or not preferred names appear on that. It's like completely random. There's of course tax forms if they get mailed, if you choose to have those mailed, which they shouldn't have preferred names on them because that makes them useless. But this exact thing happened to me, so I can't say it doesn't happen. There's emails that if you have your parents like registered on your e-bill, they could possibly end up seeing that some way, shape, or form. So external communications, of course, doesn't always just go to in-person mail. It does go to email as well.
Legislator Snell.
Would this also address internalized communications such as in Title IX reports, where I know oftentimes students' legal names are then put next to their preferred names and then given to all parties, thus outing students who might not have been outed before?
This specifically addresses external communications, not any internal.
Legislator Martino.
My question is in regards to how they're actually going to make the change. From a systems point of view, what are we looking to do?
Okay, so let me give you all a rundown. So when I talk with some officials, the current like status of it is and will continue to be, they are currently working and will continue to work to minimize this as much as possible, as much as they can. But the current system they use is very antiquated, it's very old, and it doesn't allow them to kind of do everything they want to do. Like, when I first talked with officials, what I wanted was a system where they can opt into or out of their preferred name being on external communications, because that gives everyone what they want. However, they were like, we really want to do that, but that's just like not possible. This is all conversations I had last summer, and the situation hasn't really changed. But what they're currently doing is just continuing working to minimize it. There's nothing we can do to like fully eliminate it, but if we can minimize it as much as humanly possible, that's a win.
President Johnson.
I was just gonna ask to be added as a supporter to the things. I just now noticed I was not, which is odd.
If anybody would like to be added as a support at this time, please raise your hand.
I would like to be added.
Legislator Obrah. Oh, okay, I apologize.
I'm sure not for people, there's a lot of people that are already on that, like Mario is already on there, Bella's already on there.
In addition, Madam Speaker, just for ease of compiling records, could you please list in bold the people who were added during this meeting?
That's probably a good idea.
Anybody else want to be added as support?
Sure. And speaking of for the confusion between our names, the speaker before took Marion off, but I don't think Marion was on.
It was on there previously.
Yeah.
That everybody?
Yes.
All right.
I believe.
Any further points of discussion? Majority Leader Romer.
I just wanted to ask if we were also planning to follow up with those administrative offices once this resolution is passed, just to like touch base with where they are in this process and see if there's anything we can do to support their progress.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm 100% going to do that, yes.
Legislator Martino.
I could bring us back to this. So where do preferred names actually get used? Because in the resolution, it says where we want to stop them from being used, but where will we be looking to actually have them?
Well, the reason why it doesn't specify where we want them is because everywhere we want them, there already are. So like in the classroom, like in like systems around OU. So if you go to an office and be like, hi, my name is Mike, you don't have to give like your dead name or anything like that. In the ID card office and like on a physical ID, it will say have your preferred name, stuff like that.
Any other points of discussion at this time? All right, prior to voting, Legislator Smith, would you like to be present or present in voting? Legislator Smith? Okay. Legislator Maystone, are you present or present in voting?
Present.
Okay, with that, we'll move into a roll call vote.
Madam Chair, point of information. There were two people who has to be added as support, so it has.
Yeah. I'll add them real quick before we start voting. Now we'll move to a vote. Majority Leader Brummer. Seeing a yay in the chat. Chairperson Smith.
Yay.
Chairperson Waters.
Yay.
Legislator Fayette.
Yay.
Legislator Snell.
Yay.
Legislator Van Patten.
Yay.
Chairperson Valdez. Parliamentarian Vella.
Yay.
Legislator Barris. Legislator Dreswicki.
Yay.
Legislator Avesa.
Yay.
Legislator Lunger.
Yay.
Legislator Marcoux,
Yay.
Legislator Markowitz,
Yay.
Legislator Martino,
Abstain.
Legislator Mason,
Yay.
Legislator Oprah,
Yay.
Legislator Christodaro,
Yay.
Legislator Rosario,
Yay.
Legislator Wiegand, Legislator Wolf.
Yay.
All right, with that, CR 6802 has passed.
Actually, you forgot to call on Legislator Smith. She's in the chat.
Apologize. Legislator Smith, are you present or present in voting?
Present.
I apologize. I tried asking earlier.
It's okay.
All right, then Legislator Smith, how would you like to vote?
Yay.
Still has passed. All right, moving on the agenda, we'll move on to CR 6804. This is also presented by Chairperson Smith. Chairperson Smith, you have the floor.
You're all gonna be hearing me from me a lot today, so get used to it. So what is this resolution? 6804 is a different type of resolution. It's not like a call to action. It's more so just we're student Congress and we think we should do this thing. What is this thing in this case? Sustainability and maintaining sustainable practices as an organization. If you could scroll down, please. To the full results section. Thank you. I'll read this out. OUSC pledges to continue to support sustainable practices at and around Open University, advocate for continued funding and support for sustainable student services on campuses such as food pantry, menstrual products initiative, student organic farm, etc. Advocates for continued funding and support for sustainable campus initiatives such as pollinator gardens, recycling, campus dining initiatives, etc. Advocate for expanding funding and support for sustainable student involvement initiatives such as the Repair Cafe. OUSC pledges to commit to being more sustainable in our practices, for example, pledging to commit to more quote unquote useful giveaways that students find useful and not wasteful.
Are there any points of discussion at this time?
Yeah, I have just a couple. Sorry.
All right, Legislator Snell.
Yeah, so for starters, I noticed that under 1A it mentioned sustainable services such as food pantry and menstrual products initiative. While I agree that both are important and we should advocate and fund them, I'm not quite certain why they're lumped in here with the sustainability bill.
The food pantry, which I believe that has a full name that I'm not using in this resolution. If somebody could actually knows that and could say it, that'd be really cool. The food pantry has used clothing as well, making it so, you know, we don't have to make as much clothing, people aren't buying as much. And menstrual products, it's kind of the same reasoning. It's just, you know, people not having to go buy more, not wasting more when they can get some for free at OU.
I see. And then just question number 2, under point 2, subsection A, it mentions, for example, quote, pledging to commit to more useful giveaways that students find useful and are not wasteful. Do you have any examples of what that could look like? Because it feels very wordy and vague without going into the specifics of what it's trying to get at.
Yeah, so like types of giveaways that aren't like I don't want to say necessities, but things like for example, we just got a bunch of tiny little gavels that would be, I would consider probably little less useful of a giveaway. Stuff like merch. Merch would be classified as less useful. So committing to try and get as much stuff that people use, like the stuff we have in our vending, well, we're going to have in our vending machine, like condoms, over-the-counter Plan B, Narcan, that sort of stuff.
Legislator Longer.
I'm really passionate about this initiative. Can I be added as a supporter?
I would ask Chairperson Smith to please give editing access so I can add supporters.
I shall do that. If you request editing access, that'd make life so much easier. So add supporters at the end. For now, continue questions.
Yeah, for the sake of time, we'll continue with it. Discussion on legislator Rosario.
Could I also be added as a supporter?
Will in a second. Legislator Wolf.
I definitely, I think this resolution is headed in the right direction and I really like it. I do agree with, legislator Snell that perhaps the language around giveaways could be more clear. And I've definitely talked about this with multiple people, but I would love to see giveaways perhaps being maybe, OUSC branded cones or maybe like hand sanitizer with an OUSC like label on it, or perhaps, like toothbrushes, because you know when you go to the dentist and you get a free toothbrush from them and they have like their like practices name on it, like I think we could definitely find ways to give resources to students whilst advertising ourselves.
Chairperson Smith.
Thank you. I will say, the reason behind, a lot of the vagueness of that line is one, it was added this morning, and two, it's less so, us, like I said, advocating, it's more so just a call, like, let it be known to ourselves. Let us tell ourselves that we should do this thing. As long as we know the meaning of it, then it should be fine.
Legislator Markowitz.
Yeah, so I think I might be able to provide some context on that last line too, because I suggested it. And so when I was thinking about like quote unquote like useful stuff, like I think merch is useful. Like obviously like it's good to show school spirit, like it gets OUSC out there. Like the first aid kits I think are very useful, like all this stuff like that. But it was particularly like stuff like the little like tchotchke stuff, like the gavels that like people were just throwing out immediately after they get them, frisbees, like that kind of thing. I definitely see as like a little bit more wasteful, especially when we're just using like single-use plastics for the sake of using single-use plastics. And so that was kind of my intention with it. But of course, we could make it a little bit more clear if that's a concern of people's.
Legislator Snell.
Thank you so much, Legislator Markowitz and legislators and Chairperson Smith, apologies, for clarifying that line. However, I still firmly believe that just for the sake of future clarity and for archival purposes, I think we should spell it out a bit more clear as to what we are looking for in that last line. Because as Legislator Wolf said, certain things such as combs could be seen as useful, but also could in the future very well be seen as gimmicky items that are quickly trashed. Similar to how in the past, I know flash drives could have been something that would have been, while pricier, a very fun merch item, except now, as we see with the rise of cloud sharing and cloud storage, they're a bit less useful. Thank you.
Yeah, I see the reasoning behind that. If this was like a bill to expand our sustainability policy in our congressional policy section of the bylaws, I would definitely want to add that in. But because this is like a non-binding type of thing, I would say it's not super needed. But I will say, I know last term we talked a lot about rewriting that sustainability part of our bylaws, because I tried to redo it last year and it was just a headache because it was so bad. There were so many references to a bunch of things that just didn't exist, and we found out later were just made up to make it sound good, which is hilarious. But because it's just sort of a non-binding type of thing, I don't see the expanding of what that might mean, the banning, as like a super needed thing, like exclusively just because it's not something we are going to refer back to. And of course, at past the end of this term, it's expired anyway. If we want to, I think noting this down and keeping it in mind for when we do rewrite the sustainability policy in our bylaws, that would be very useful to write in and further define, so we can refer to that instead, which is a much better resource.
Legislator Francis.
Yeah, kind of just to get another perspective and kind of going off of what Chairperson Smith said. I think the vagueness of this resolution could work to our benefit as it opens up discussion for what that actually means, in a later date. I feel as this is a resolution and as was said before, is non-binding, we would and should, open up discussion at a later date, just to kind of clarify what that means. And we don't really need to do it now, as I feel it is kind of arbitrary, as it doesn't really affect the bill or the resolution at all.
Chairperson Waters.
Thank you. Thank you. I just want to second a lot of what legislator Beatty just said. I feel that the vagueness, in my personal opinion, kind of works in its favor, especially when it comes to thinking about, oh, well, we have a director of sustainability and a sustainability committee, what they might be able to do with that. And I feel like the figuring out of what exactly that means is a perfect thing for the sustainability committee to do. With that, I yield. Thank you.
Legislator Wolf.
I think, we can have confidence in this body to, in good faith, follow the spirit of this. I would like to affirm what, Legislator Yetite, has said, and I do believe we can trust in this body to carry out in good faith the spirit of this bill, and I don't think any more specific language is necessary for us to do our jobs.
Legislator Ferdinando.
Legislator Wolf just very eloquently put much of the stuff that I was about to say. But I want to acknowledge Legislator Snell's concerns that, like, yes, it's vague, but it's a reminder of policy for ourselves in student Congress, for like people who are planning events, that like to have that intention when we decide to spend money on prizes, and like specifying like specific types of prizes. It will depend so much on the different events that we're doing.
Are there any other points of discussion at this time? Seeing none, we'll head into a roll call vote. Would anybody like to be added as a supporter at this time? That will be moving on to a roll call vote. Majority Leader Brummer, seeing a yay in the chat. Chairperson Smith.
Yay.
Chairperson Waters.
Yay.
Legislator Fayette.
Yay.
Legislator Snell.
Yay.
Legislator Van Patten.
Yay.
Chairperson Valdez. Legislator Bella.
Yay.
Legislator Barris. Legislator Dreswicki.
Yay.
Legislator Beza.
Yay.
Legislator Lunger.
Yay.
Legislator Maku.
Yay.
Legislator Markowitz.
Yay.
Legislator Martino.
Yay.
Legislator Mason.
Yay.
Legislator Obra,
Yay.
Legislator Christian. Legislator Rosario,
Yay.
Legislator Smith,
Yay.
Legislator Weekend, Legislator Wolf.
Yay.
All right, with that, CR 6804 has passed. Moving on, we'll be going on to CB 6801. This is presented by Chairperson Smith. Chairperson Smith, you have the floor.
What a surprise, I'm back again. Okay, so this is a bill, can't even be voted on this meeting, and I did forget to run through it for the last time that I was going to before, reading this off. So of course, before the next meeting, which this is voted on, this is very, very much up to, in, editing and further just deliberation. If you could just scroll down to the enacted section. Essentially, what this is this creates an ad hoc committee, which is just going to be styled as a public forum to address issues related to the LGBTQI plus community. This is like some of the more important guidelines, not guidelines, I don't want to use the word guidelines. Some of the more important rules for what the committee is going to look like, what rules it should have. If this seems barren, that's because it is. As per the bylaws, once an ad hoc committee is passed, the guidelines can be submitted within 4 weeks of the passage of the committee. So instead of trying to cram it all in this bill, I realized I wanted to give myself more time to do other things that I also do in student congress, which is a lot. And so I will be writing the guidelines at a different time, and to be passed probably middle to late June. So yeah, that's what this is, an ad hoc committee to address public concerns and to try and take issues people raise that face them and turn them into action, find solutions for the LGBTQ community.
Legislator Martino,
2 points of privilege. Number one, could I be added to the supporters? And number two, Legislator Waters appears twice.
Oh, you your voice.
Oh, I added, and
I would once again like to ask Chairperson Smith for editing access.
yeah, this further proves, I forgot to look over it today, which I normally do with all my legislation. That's funny. I'm approving that request now.
All right, anybody interested in being added as a supporter, please raise your hand now. Further discussion on CB 6801? Legislator Christian.
Chairperson Smith, do you have, right now, issues in mind that on campus or broadly that the committee is going to address?
I personally do, yes, have some stuff that the committee could address, but because it's going to be styled more like a public forum type of thing, I don't really want to insert my own stuff in there because I'm a part of student congress, I can just do it. So yes, I do, but are they going to be the focus of the committee? Yeah, probably not. Unless, members of the public bring them up.
Any further points of discussion? Chairperson Waters.
Thank you. I just want to say that this is I'm really in support of this. I feel that having a public forum for members of the LGBT QIA plus community to say their concerns is a very helpful and good thing. I'm very happy that we're putting this out, and I look forward to voting in support of it next meeting. With that, I yield the floor.
Legislator Wolf.
I think it's highly important to bridge, connections between the community and open conversation between, all types of people. And I think this is a great way to facilitate such communications. I yield.
Chairperson Smith.
Yeah, and if you have any things you want added to this bill, any suggestions you have for the guidelines, or any comments you want to make to me personally, of course, we aren't voting on this, so there's plenty of time to add more things, remove things, all the sorts. So, yeah.
Madam Chair, I believe there are members on the Zoom who raised their hands to speak in this discussion.
Majority Leader Romer.
I just wanted to ask, in terms of execution, what would the committee look like? Like, would it simply be a forum more similar to the campus food committee? Would it look more like programming that brings attention and then starts conversation around that? Or how do you expect that to look?
I believe that to be kind of like a mixture of both, but mostly just like a campus food committee. Of course, I haven't thought too in depth about that yet, because a lot of that's going to go into the guidelines, and that's going to be more than me just coming up with things and writing them down. I want to work with a lot of people on that. Yeah.
Legislator Snell.
So honestly, my biggest question is just, what would be the difference between establishing this committee, which I do support, and are already existing liaisons to, say, the GSC, to SAGE, to other LGBTQ orgs on campus?
The main difference would be to provide a forum for students who, of course, aren't maybe not usually engaged with student congress, students in the queer community who don't usually go to, say, the SAGE or the GSC, which is a very large amount. Yeah.
Then my follow-up question is, with that being said, what is your plan to make this appealing to LGBTQ students, especially since they already aren't going, since you mentioned you wanted this to target students who aren't already going to these already existing LGBTQ plus spaces on campus?
I would say, of course, I haven't thought that out fully through. I haven't thought that out thoroughly just yet. Of course, I'm saving things like that for more than just I'm tripping over my words. To plan out with more people than just me, because at the end of the day, I'm only one person with so many ideas and so many ways to do things, and I want to bring more voices to this. So if you're actually interested in working on this with me, let me know. We can set up a call. But at the moment, I think just trying to look at where, look at the areas that on campus where these students may be hanging out, students advertising it within professors' classrooms, that sort of thing.
All right, I'll just like to offer one quick point of information. Please wait until addressed by the chair until you say your comments. Thank you. Legislator Snell.
Yeah, so then just following up with that, I noticed that there's no sponsor from these larger, or not sponsor, no supporter from these larger organizations, such as the Gender and Sexuality Center or SAGE or other notable LGBTQ plus orgs on campus. Did you plan to follow up with them to ask them how this could work, if they're already taking steps to say, hey, collaborate with administration in putting forth something similar?
So yes, why are they not added as supporters? Because I forgot to. I didn't ask them. Have I already chatted with the president of SAGE and the graduate assistant of the Gender and Sexuality Center? Yes, they both seem to like this idea a fair amount. They did have some ideas for how it should be run, but as I said, it's going to go in guidelines, not here.
Legislator Snell.
Sorry, last question. You keep mentioning these guidelines, and I know earlier you mentioned having a bit of a time getting this bill put together, but didn't Didn't Johnson already introduce legislation as to how ad hoc committees should get formed, or were there not guidelines already established for that?
Those guidelines existed, were meant to go up, but they're under review by the Judiciary Committee at this time.
Are there any other points of discussion at this time? All right, with that, we'll be moving on. Next up on the agenda is the approval of the Judiciary Committee members. This is once again presented by Chairperson Smith. Chairperson Smith, you have the floor.
Thank you. I'm getting tired of talking here. So yes, my job, Judiciary Chair. I wish we could space out all these approvals. I'm sorry. Thank you, Chairperson Valdez, for letting me do this. I really appreciate this. With a committee, we'll be able to do the work that we've had kind of stacked up and continuing to stack up for a little while now. I'm gonna keep it brief. I've asked all of my perspectives to kind of keep it a little brief because I know we have a lot of stuff on the agenda we're trying to hammer through. So yeah, I was a little surprised when I asked for interest for the Judiciary Committee because last term when I was in the same position, literally like nobody expressed interest. It was a little hard to get a full committee, and I ended up only getting a full committee after begging and pleading for nearly the entire term. So surprise to me, I get more interest from members in OUSC this term than I have seats. So that led me down a tough path of being like, okay, who would be best suited for the committee? Who would be best suited for this like sort of job? And so we have this list of people right here. I would be really happy to have them all approved and all welcomed into the Judiciary Committee. And I'm excited to work with everyone there. Then I yield to our first approval.
All right, for the first approval, Legislator Rosario, you have the floor.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for giving me some of our time from our very busy agenda that we have today. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Javier Rosario. I'm a public admin and public policy major with a double major in German language and culture. I joined Student Congress this last January. So I'm not necessarily brand new, but I'm not exactly one of the older members of our Congress either. I don't have experience previously in the Judiciary Committee, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. In order to keep our seamless transition from year to year as our members graduate, we're going to have to bring in fresh people who don't have any experience. Uh, as you can see, I'm unfortunately not with you in the room physically because I am out of state up until August, but this is not a regular thing for me. And once August comes around, I will be on campus pretty much the entire academic year. So my time commitment should not be a worry. And even over the summer, I'm really never more than just a text message away. But we have some very nice people, some people I don't know, who are going up after me. But I think we can really build a good team and have a good start to this committee. Thank you.
Are there any questions for Legislator Rosario at this time? All right, seeing none, Legislator Rosario, I'm going to kick you out to the waiting room for the time being. All right, are there any points of discussion on Legislator Rosario's approval? Legislator Markowitz.
So I just wanted to clarify. So there are 5 openings, right, on the Judiciary Committee, and that's what we're voting on today?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Legislator Snell.
I didn't really have a point of discussion. I just wanted to highlight that having worked with Javier both in Student Congress and outside of it, he really steps up to the plate often. He thinks of others' needs both before his own and in tandem with his own. And I know he frequently steps up to pick up whatever he can in order to make a difference. He's one of the hardest working people I know. And honestly, I'm really proud to work alongside him in Congress. And I know he'd do well in Judiciary Committee.
Legislator Martino,
I'm gonna keep this brief. I've known Javier for only a couple weeks, but in that time, he's been really helpful in getting to understand everything, and he's been very easy to contact, so I'm in support.
are there any other, okay, Legislator Marcoux?
I have a lot of respect for legislator Rosario, and I know he has a lot of respect for Congress. I believe he's worked with legislator Lunger, for a club outside of OUSC, which allows him to display his devotion to our campus. I've seen him at a lot of OUSC events. I saw him at a lot of the legislator meetings last term. I know I've only been here since like early March, but every legislator meeting, I went to every legislator meeting since I got approved, and he's also been at everyone. And I regularly chat with him about student Congress, so I can testify that he's devoted.
Legislator Lunger,
I think legislator Rosario would be a great candidate for this committee. He is very engaged in student Congress, and I also work with him a lot in PCO. And we're actually working, I would like to meet with him I would like to actually meet with all the PCO board to discuss to discuss gardening events and PCO summer meetings. But I think legislator Rosario would be great at analyzing the bylaws and being in the judiciary committee. With that, I yield the floor.
are there any other points of discussion at this time?
Madam Chair, point of information, what is PCO for the record?
The Pollinator Conservation Organization.
Thank you.
All right, with that, we'll move into a vote. Majority Leader Brummer,
Yay.
Chairperson Smith,
Yay.
Chairperson Waters,
Yay.
Legislator Friatita,
Yay.
Legislator Snell,
Yay.
Legislator Van Patten,
Yay.
Chairperson Valdez. Parliamentarian Villa,
Yay.
Legislator Barris. Legislator Dreswicki. Legislator Aveza,
Yay.
Legislator Lunger,
Yay.
Legislator Maku,
Yay.
Legislator Markowitz,
Yay.
Legislator Martino,
Yay.
Legislator Mason,
Yay.
Legislator Obra,
Yay.
Legislator Christian Darrow.
Yay.
Legislator Smith,
Yay.
Legislator Weekend.
Yay.
Legislator Wolf,
Yay.
all right, Legislator Rosario, how would you like to vote on your approval?
Yay.
I apologize, can you repeat that, please?
Yay.
All right, with that, Legislator Rosario has been approved for the Judiciary Committee. All right, next up, we have the approval of Legislator Friatita. Legislator Friatita, you have the floor.
Hello, everyone. For those of you who do not know me, I am Legislator Fayette. I work with YDSA and I also worked on the Elections Committee last semester. To kind of keep it short, while I was in the Elections Committee, I got to read over Appendix 3, which was about our elections. And since I have read over Appendixes 1, 2, and 4, as well as other bylaw documents, really, I would just like to open it up to questions there so I can address any questions or concerns or anything else that the legislature would like to bring up.
Are there any questions for Legislator Friatita at this time? All right, seeing none, legislator Friatete, I will ask you to leave the room and we'll move on to question or discussions. Right, is there any discussion on the approval of legislator Friatete? Chairperson Waters.
Thank you. I just want to speak in support of legislator Fiatete. I think that her work on the validations committee for our elections last year was very good. I feel that she was very unbiased, and I feel that and I know having known her a little bit personally, she is just able to get right in there. So I think she would make a great choice for the Judiciary Committee, and I will be voting yay. That I yield the floor.
Legislator Christian.
I'd like to echo similar sentiments, from everything I've seen from legislative events today. She's very active and very organized, like with the elections validations committee. She was, very passionate about just stepping up and doing that as a public service. So I would endorse her.
Legislator Wolf.
I do not know legislator Fiatete very well, but her new leadership within YDSA, she has not held back at all by questioning previous leadership's policies and ways of doing things. She is really ready to disrupt things if she thinks things aren't ethical, aren't being done the right way. She is willing to speak up and not be over familiar with people and just let them get their way. She really does look to her conscience when she makes decisions.
Legislator Lunger.
Legislator Fiatete, she did a really good job on the elections committee last administration. She was very unbiased. And, she did a wonderful job collaborating with Director Taylor Richardson. I support her and I think she'd be great for this position. With that, I yield the floor.
Are there any other points of discussion at this time? All right, seeing none, we'll move into a roll call vote. Majority Leader Brummer.
Yay.
Chairperson Smith.
Yay.
Chairperson Waters.
Yay.
Legislator Snell.
Can you come back to me? Sorry.
Okay. Legislator Van Patten.
Yay.
Chairperson Valdez. Parliamentarian Vella.
Yay.
Legislator Barris. Legislator Jeswicki. Legislator Aveza.
Yay.
Legislator Lunger. Legislator Maku.
Yay.
Legislator Markowitz.
Yay.
Legislator Martino.
Yay.
Legislator Mason.
Yay.
Legislator Obra.
Yay.
Legislator Christian Darrow.
Yay.
Legislator Rosario.
Yay.
Legislator Smith.
Yay.
Legislator Wiegand. Legislator Wolf.
Yay.
Legislator Snell.
Yay.
All right, can someone grab legislator Friatete? All right, legislator Friatete, how would you like to vote on your approval?
Yay.
All right, with that, legislator Friatete has been approved to the Judiciary Committee. All right, next up, we have legislator Obra. Legislator Obra, you have the floor.
All right, hello, for those who don't know me, my name is Earl, and I'm the current vice president of Sage. I'm pretty eager to be a part of this committee. I've, already read through the next one of the bylaws. Up to that, isn't it?
Any questions for legislator Ober at this time? All right, with that, legislator Ober, I would like to ask you to leave the room. Are there any points of discussion on legislator Ober at this time? President Smith.
Yeah, I wanted to, kind of speak on behalf of, Legislator Ober. I do, they were a little bit nervous trying to go up here as a new member and didn't speak much. So, I want to kind of talk to why I chose them. Because I have seen them in a leadership capacity with Sage, and I got to know them a little bit as a person for the, I want to say, better part of 2.5-ish months. The reason why I really wanted them on this committee is largely due to their personality and how they view stuff like our bylaws, their curiosity and asking questions, and their basically their perspective is mainly what I wanted. Somebody who's new, somebody who hasn't done much of this work before, but somebody who still has the ability to do this job very well. And I think Legislator Ober would be a wonderful addition on the Judiciary Committee. I say that because I'm putting them up.
Chairperson Waters.
Yeah, I just wanted to say a few words about Legislator Ober. I am also on Sage's board. I'm the treasurer, and I have seen Legislator Ober do very good work and be very strong in that leadership role in Sage. I feel that I have to agree with a lot of what Chairperson Smith said. It's always valuable to get a new perspective. And also like I really like it when people who go up to for the Judiciary Committee read the bylaws. Something that I will point out when I was put up, I didn't even do, but I still got on. So I feel that Legislator Ober is a very good candidate for this position. A great perspective. And I will be voting yea. That is the floor.
Legislator Snell.
Legislator Oprah, I've seen just around campus. They literally always seem to be doing something and really involved. I really appreciate how hard of a worker they are. I know oftentimes, especially with drag show, they were among the literally, I don't think a day went by where I didn't see them volunteering to help out. So I really appreciate that. And I do think that Legislator Ober would do really well.
Legislator Francis.
Kind of to double up on what Legislator Snell said, I have also seen Legislator Ober work on other stuff on campus. And not only that, I am familiar with their kind of passion about joining the Judiciary Committee. I know that they have asked questions about the bylaws. They have read over the bylaws just like me. They are very passionate about asking questions, interpreting the bylaws, and being a part of the Judiciary Committee. So I think they would be a perfect member for this.
Chairperson Smith.
Really quickly, I want to say this not only about Legislator Ober, but about literally like most of the people on the list of people I've put up for approval today. Mostly everyone has DM'd me, asked me questions about our bylaws, what certain things mean. So when people say they've read through the bylaws, they have. I had a call with Legislator Ober yesterday because they had a fair amount of questions about like what certain sections meant, why something contained what's the context behind something. So I as Chairperson Waters pointed out earlier, it's not a very common thing for some perspectives to read the bylaws, but literally everyone on the list has. And I love that. Without even.
Are there any other points of discussion on Legislator Ober's approval at this time? Seeing none, we'll move on into a vote. Majority Leader Brummer. Chairperson Smith,
Yay.
Chairperson Waters,
Yay.
Legislator Fayette,
Yay.
Legislator Snell,
Yay. Also, Majority Leader Brummer put a yay in the chat.
no, I don't know why I didn't get notification for it, thank you. Legislator Van Patten,
Yay.
Chairperson Valdez, Parliamentarian Villa,
Yay.
Legislator Barris, Legislator Jeswicki, Legislator Aveza, all right, Legislator Smith is taking by privilege. Once again, Legislator Aveza, how would you like to vote? Yeah. Legislator Lunger,
Yay.
Legislator Maku,
Yay.
Legislator Markowitz,
Yay.
Legislator Martino,
Yay.
Legislator Mason,
Yay.
Legislator Fernandaro,
Yay.
Legislator Rosario,
Yay.
Legislator Wiegand,
Yay.
Legislator Wolf,
Yay.
somebody please grab Legislator Obra.
Did you check the chat for legislators?
Legislator Smith is taking a fine privilege. Ah, I see. Didn't read that far in the message. Legislator Obra, how would you like to vote on your approval?
Yay.
All right, and with that, Legislator Obra has been approved for the Judiciary Committee. All right, moving on, approval of Legislator Maku. Legislator Maku, you have the floor.
Yeah, I'll try to keep this brief because you just heard me talk like 2 weeks ago when I was running for parliamentarian. So I have been part of this Congress since about early March. And since then, I got to work right away. I participated in the Earth Day Fair. I was at the award ceremony, the trail opening, exam cram tabling, neurodivergent workshop.
Point of information, Legislator Maku, would you please move closer to the mic?
Oh, okay. Were you able to hear me?
We're able to hear you already, but online.
Okay, perfect. Since being confirmed, I have not missed a general body meeting. I've also not missed a legislator meeting. So because of my participation in student Congress so far, I think you can trust me to participate in the Judiciary Committee. I messaged Chairperson Smith about being interested in joining this committee at the end of last term. And since then, I've been getting to work studying the bylaws and the OUSC Constitution better. And I'll continue to analyze these documents in the future if I get confirmed. I do have a few goals. I would like to help Chairperson Smith and the Judiciary Committee write a summary of the bylaws for new members. Chairperson Smith mentioned this a while ago, and I think that's a great idea. It would have helped me out a lot in March, especially. Also, I would like to work as a committee to revise the bylaws and correct I noticed quite a few errors in the bylaws. So I don't want to bore people, but I will give just like 2 examples to prove that there are errors in the bylaw. One sentence reads, in the event the University Student Congress president vetoes the compensation plan, then to override the veto requires a 3/4 vote from the legislature. Then doesn't belong there and it needs a comma. And also, pretty sure it will have to say it requires an override. Or something. It just has to be rephrased and then up there. And but more importantly, I noticed another error. It talked, I think this might have been around like page 10 of the appendix 1. It mentions that category, it's hard to describe this. So there are different categories for different instances of how the budget is structured. Category A covers the budget if compensation is 40% of the budget or less. Compensation, or category B covers the budget if compensation is 40% to 60%. And that leaves some ambiguity if the compensation is exactly 40% because it doesn't say below 40%. It's category A and category B both cover that. Not sure if that makes sense, but you can ask me questions about that, I guess. So just proof that there are errors in the bylaws that can be fixed.
Are there any questions for Legislator Maku at this time? Seeing none, Legislator Maku, I'll ask you to leave the room. Chairperson Smith.
Thank you. Okay, so as Legislator Maku pointed out, they reached out to me at the end of last term in kind of wanting to join the Judiciary Committee, which I was really hyped about. And I was more than interested seeing their drive, their initiative, and a new perspective in the Judiciary Committee, but their when they went up for parliamentarian, that only kind of solidified that I really wanted Legislator Maku on the committee. And also, I would like to say, the second line that Legislator Maku was talking about in the bylaws is one a lot of us know about because we were subject to our budget crisis last summer, which wasn't, that line had a lot to do with that. It does mean in the current interpretation of the bylaws that 40 to 60%, meaning 40% exactly to 60% exactly, it is within that range, but yes, we can of course always go into more depth on that sort of thing to further specify so so people don't misread things, which happens a lot with bylaws. With that I yield, there's a lot of points about.
Legislator Martino.
I'm gonna reiterate same thing I said with Legislator Rosario. On a personal level, Legislator Maku has been very helpful, very supportive. And when it came to the vote for parliamentarian, he showed that he was very well read. And once again, just now, he showed that he knows what he is talking about, and I will be voting yes.
Chairperson Waters.
Thank you. I just wanted to quickly say a few words about Legislator Maku. I do not know him very well, but what I will say is professionally, like within this body, I see him, he strikes me as a very driven, ideas focused and hardworking individual. I think that when he gets his mind on something to do, he goes at it and he gets it done. With that, I will be voting yes.
Chairperson Valdez.
Say the exact same thing. I think he has a very good work ethic. He's driven, he's smart. And not only that, he pays a lot of attention to detail. And I know that we have a lot going on in this organization, and he really focuses on what matters, and I think he's great for this committee.
Legislator Lunger.
I've worked with Legislator Maku a lot, last administration in student congress and with the and I also volunteered with him at Autism Family Fun Day at the Rec Center. And he's got a lot of initiative. Him and I worked on sustainability related initiatives and neurodivergent acceptance week. I think he'd be a great candidate for this position.
President Johnson.
I will make 2 points. Firstly, I'm gonna thank him for saving me $30 a month. So I was really tempted to get a Canva back in Grammarly subscription to apply it to the bylaws. That's what the speaker and I were just here joking about. But I don't want to take his fun away, so more power to him on that point. And I will say, I remember when he came in as a legislator last term, he was the first legislator I've ever seen come to a general body meeting and take his own set of notes on everything that was happening. And he didn't just do it as a legislator, he also did it from the gallery, which was hilarious considering that the very first meeting he actually came to, he had to sit in the gallery for 3.5 hours. So I'm assuming he took quite a few notes on that. So he's a very diligent person and he will see things through from what I've gathered. With that, I will yield the floor.
Legislator Francis.
So not to make this body sound like a broken record, but I would like to basically just restate everything that has been said. While I haven't known Maku as much as some of our other members as I am newer, from what I have heard and seen during my time here and my time being kind of like a gallery member or just like off to the side, Legislator Maku has a impeccable work ethic, taking notes, kind of being the front person for initiatives that he is very passionate about. And that being said, I think that he is a wonderful pick for the Judiciary Committee. And with that, I yield.
Legislator Snell.
I just wanted to follow up with what President Johnson was saying, specifically because I sat next to Legislator Maku during that 3.5-hour meeting. He took very detailed notes. So honestly, I attest to what Chairperson Valdez already said to his detail orientedness. But I also want to highlight that Legislator Maku, he very often, and this is something rare I see, not just within Student Congress, but within OU as a whole. When he walks in a room, he has a way of making sure that every single person can, at minimum, feel welcomed and make sure they know they have been heard. That is something I feel is very well needed in the Judiciary Committee, especially since it tends to get very intense. It could potentially run into some hurt feelings, and that is something that needs to be included. Apologies. I just wanted to get my words together a bit. So I fully support and endorse Legislator Maku for joining the Judiciary Committee.
Legislator Barris.
Okay. Okay. So I was actually Legislator Maku's student when he was a TA, and I just wanted to say that him being so detail oriented is something that is really impressive, especially because he had to do lesson prep like once every week. And I think he is an amazing candidate, and I have nothing but good things to say about him. With that, I yield.
Legislator Francis.
I just want to make one more comment. I do think that Legislator Maku is probably one of, if not the most qualified person for the Judiciary Committee. And if other people got confirmed, including myself, he should as well.
Director Lisicki.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't know Legislator Maku very well, but I appreciate the attention to detail that it takes to notice that processes are broken and need to be fixed. I look forward to working with Legislator Maku on those efforts, and I bet that it's good enough for my support.
Are there any other points of discussion at this time? Seeing none, we'll be moving on into a vote. Majority Leader Brummer.
Yay.
Being a yay in the chat. Chairperson Smith.
Yay.
Chairperson Waters.
Yay.
Legislator Francis.
Yay.
Legislator Snell.
Yay.
Legislator Van Patten.
Yay.
Chairperson Valdez. Parliamentarian Bella.
Yay.
Legislator Barris. Legislator Dreswicki. Legislator Aveza.
Yay.
Legislator Lunger. Legislator Markowitz.
Yay.
Legislator Martino.
Yay.
Legislator Mason.
Yay.
Legislator Obra.
Yay.
Legislator Christian.
Yay.
Legislator Rosario.
Yeah.
Legislator Wiegand.
Yeah.
Legislator Wolf.
Yay.
All right, can somebody please grab Legislator Maku? Legislator Maku, how would you like to vote in your approval? All right, and with that, Legislator Maku has been approved for the Judiciary Committee. All right, last but not least, Legislator Barris, you are the last to go up for approval.
Hi, everyone. So if you do not know me, which probably a lot of you don't, because I am brand new to this student congress thing, but my name is Megan. I'm going into my second year at OU, and I'm studying political science. And I was very unsure about joining OUSC until I just realized, you know what, let's do it. And hearing about the Judiciary Committee was something very intriguing to me. I think that, first off, I think working with Chairperson Smith would be an amazing opportunity because I've previously worked with her and I would love to continue with that. Let's see. I have always had a very keen interest in judicial functions. I've always been involved with some sort of politics and government. And I think that being on this, committee would be a great opportunity to help the body in addition to growing experiences and knowledge for myself. I would say that I am a qualified candidate for this position, at least I hope. I'm very passionate about my work. I've always been driven by my passion, and I think this quality has led me to some success in my life. Secondly, I think that I'm a good team player. I grew up playing sports. I played basketball since I was 5 years old, 8 years in tennis, all that stuff. And I've developed some pretty good communication skills, I would say. But yeah, I think teamwork is incredibly important to me in addition to this body. And I'd love to work with all the other newly added members because I don't have a lot of experience with all of them and I'm excited for that. I think another reason that this committee intrigued me was that I'm very interested in judicial, just like I said earlier, but I currently work at a litigation law firm, and this has really helped me understand a lot of different responsibilities that I think could mesh well with this responsibility in the committee. Like I retrieve records, talk to plaintiffs, draft court documents and legal documents. And I think some of these valuable skills will be well suited for the type of work that I would face in this committee. I guess in school I am in Model UN. I'm the vice president now, and I'm involved with pre-law club, and I try and stay pretty active on campus, even if I'm not part of a club. I've been working with the Coalition for Gun Violence Awareness, and I pretty much just like to stay active. And yeah, I'd love for you to consider and make those questions.
Are there any questions for Legislator Barris at this time? Seeing none, Legislator Barris, I would like to ask you to leave the room. All right, Chairperson Smith.
Thank you. So as you all have just heard, Legislator Barris is very qualified for, for this committee, probably overqualified. Thank you. And I've Legislator Barris is probably the person I've put up that I know the best. I've known her since about January, and I've had the unique experience of being in Model UN with her. Not only in Model UN, but I've had the experience of being in the same committee with her. For those that don't know, when a Model UN delegation goes to a Model UN convention, it's sometimes you don't get stuck with people from the same school. And me and Legislator Barris were the only people in our committee that was UN Women in Toronto together. So I was trapped in a room with her, sitting next to her for 3 days straight for about 10 hours a day. So I've gotten to know Legislator Barris, how they work in a professional setting and a more formal setting a lot, and they are absolutely perfect for the Judiciary Committee, and I'm so excited to welcome them. With that, I yield.
Chairperson Waters.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to say one thing that specifically stuck out to me while I was listening to Legislator Barris's effective speech was the fact of where she works, working at a litigation firm, doing things that are going to be important for this, such as drafting documents, reading things, stuff like that. I feel that due to her experience with this as like an actual job, I feel that she'll have no hard time finding her place in the judiciary committee. And I find it winning game.
President Johnson.
So I will say, I was first introduced to Legislator Barris last year when she was thinking about coming on as a prospective legislator to Student Congress. And back then, she seemed very eager and very passionate to want to get involved in campus. It just so happened that of all the things she was doing at the time, Student Congress was not one that she could fit into the schedule, which she is one of about almost 20 people that was the case for. But it makes me very happy to see that she had some time to get back into Congress and, join us and is wanting to go up for the Judiciary Committee. I had a chance to talk with her over the weekend, actually. When I found out she works at a litigation firm, I thought that was pretty fun information. And she was telling me, going on about how she had a chance to look over our bylaws, which I hope is something we could eventually set as a standard that all of us will do. But for now, I will give her kudos for having done it without being officially asked to yet. So I will leave that point there as my TED Talk.
Director Lisicki.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to first concur with what Chair Waters said. This is another case where the person up for approval is not someone that I know very well, but just what's been presented here makes me think it's a green flag for their approval.
Are there any other points of discussion at this time? Legislator Maku.
I know Legislator Barris because I was her TA for HC 1000. Closer. So I know her because I was her TA. I can't say much because of FERPA laws, I think, but I can say that I recommend her. I think she would be great for the Judiciary Committee.
Any other points of discussion? Seeing none, we'll be moving on into a roll call vote. Majority Leader Brummer. Seeing a yay in the chat. Chairperson Smith.
Yay.
Chairperson Waters.
Yay.
Legislator Freyatite.
Yay.
Legislator Snell.
Can you cycle back to me, please? Sorry.
Legislator Van Patten.
Yay.
Chairperson Valdez. Parliamentarian Vella.
Yay.
Legislator Jeswicki.
Yay.
Legislator Aveza. Seeing a yay in the chat. Legislator Lunger.
Yay.
Legislator Maku.
Yeah.
Legislator Markowitz.
Yay.
Legislator Martino.
Yay.
Legislator Mason.
Yay.
Legislator Obra.
Yay.
Legislator Christian Darrow.
Yay.
Legislator Rosario,
Yay.
Legislator Wiegand. Legislator Wolf,
Yay.
Legislator Snell,
Yay.
all right, will somebody please grab Legislator Barris? Legislator Barris, how would you like to vote on your approval? With that, Legislator Barris, you have been approved to be chair. All right, moving on, we'll be moving into CR 6803. This will be presented by President Johnson. President Johnson, you have the floor.
Well, hello, it's me again. So this resolution is a rather fun one, considering that this was not initially my idea to draft. The provost, I had a chance to chat with her, and she wants to do what she calls a midterm grade policy, which would basically make your professors by the middle of the semester have a cumulative grade for you to operate off of, so that you can determine, you know, do you need to get tutoring, do you need to staying in this class something you want to do? Things of that note. I think if you scroll down to the action part, I might have limited the scope to the 1,000 to 2,000 level courses, mainly because even I know as you get into the major specific courses, it becomes a little difficult to try to implement something like this, because not every professor does things the same way. Not every major operates the same way, so I kind of wanted to give some leniency there. But when I talked with the provost about potentially implementing something like this, she told me that she only really wants to move forward with something like this if we present her with a resolution supporting it. And it's so fun, because I have a meeting with her on Friday. So if we pass this today, I can tell her to get started on that. Now, I know there was a concern brought up earlier about the AAUP's involvement. I had a chance to talk with Amy Pollard this morning and Mike Latcha. They're the folks who I call like the head honchos of the union. Now, they didn't necessarily speak in favor or in against it, because they didn't really want to take such a stand. But they did tell me about something similar that we currently use. It's just a bit old. So they mentioned that to make it easier to implement on the staff and the faculty, maybe seeing how we can update and adapt that system to kind of meet with what we're going for here. What they currently have is called an early alert system. And the way that works is if your professor is concerned about your performance in the first 3 to 4 weeks in the class, they will email or they'll put it in some system, and then the system will email you and inform you that your professor is concerned about your performance in the class. But it only happens if they're concerned about your performance in the class. So if you're doing fine, you have absolutely no clue that this is something that's being offered. I don't know if anyone in here has had that experience or not, but that is the case. And it's only available the first 3 to 4 weeks in the class. From some students I've spoken to, I didn't talk to them about this part specifically, but thinking about what I've been told, what often happens is if you're going to start struggling in a class, it's going to be after that 3 to 4 week period, because that's when you're actually settling into the class and figuring out everything that's going on. And then as the semester goes on, that's when life decides to start lifing and stuff gets rough. So if you're in like the 10th, 11th week of the semester and you're starting to struggle, you won't know this because your professors won't have that avenue to communicate that to you unless they come to you personally and say something. And this system also explicitly does not communicate students a grade, more so just their professors' concerns. So the system the provost and I were talking about would at least have a grade either in the Moodle system or whatever system the professor is using, so that you would at least know ahead of time that, you know, there's an issue going on here. And oh, there was another point I was gonna make. That's the bulk of it. So what if we pass this today, what I can do is I can take this to the provost on Friday. And I can mention maybe adapting this policy with the early access system the school currently uses. I will note, they also told me that this early access system was created in 2012 and has not really gone any major updates or changes since, which, as we've all come to learn about our lovely and fun university, everything they use was created when we were still in elementary school, and they've probably decided that maybe now is not the time to update things, because if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I wanted to try to make sure, A, this is something that's easy for the faculty to implement. B, it's something that the provost won't face too much resistance in trying to pass. So that is that. I will yield for questions.
Are there any questions related to CR 6803 at this time? Legislator Snell.
Point of information, I know you mentioned Amy Poehler and one other member of the AAUP being the quote unquote head honchos. Just for the record, do you mind giving an official title as to who these people are within the AAUP, as well as explaining?
Yes, Amy Pollard is the executive director of the AAUP. And I think Mike Laksha is either the current president or the outgoing president. I know he's retiring, but they don't change their leadership until August. So when I had a chance to meet with them, I can only meet with folks that are currently in there. Naturally, when the new president comes in, I'll have a chance to meet with them and, talk about any collaboration efforts we want to do with them, which is some of the stuff we have talked about today. Does that answer your question, Legislator Snell?
Almost. That about answers half of it. The other half was, can you just, for the record, say what the AAUP is for our legislators who might not know?
Yes. So the AAUP is the American Association of University Professors. It's basically the union that our professors are a part of. Student Congress has a long-standing history of supporting and collaborating with them on events, seeing that what they do for the faculty is kind of what we do for students. So there's very, very often chances in which our goals align with each other. So for instance, we've collaborated with them on a labor panel in the past. There's a big tabling event we do with them every now and again. I think just this past winter, we went to a labor celebration that they were having towards the end of the term, and were able to, meet some of the fine folks there. I think they had some national folks there. It was really a fun event. So for those who don't know, it's the professors union, basically. Is that about covered, or is there anything else you need me to talk on?
That's all. Thank you.
Legislator Lunger.
I think this is an excellent initiative. I wish that the 3,000 and upper division courses could be added, because last semester I had a few courses in the 3,000s that I took. I'm a bachelor's of interdisciplinary studies, and especially with one course, I had this professor that was a very harsh grader. And I didn't find out what my grade was till the class ended. I couldn't see any grade in Moodle or anything, and it was scary. I ended up passing and doing well, but I still got quite a few lower scores on the papers, and I couldn't see my final grade to the very end, and it was like nerve-wracking. I really think that this should be put into place, and if possible, maybe you could meet with the provost to see if they could do upper division courses. Because I've had several upper division online courses where I couldn't see my grade to the very end, and that's nerve-wracking for all students. I think they should at least be able to see it halfway through the semester. With that, I yield the floor.
Legislator Martino.
Hi, yes. So I would like to agree with her, and also state that the early alert system is bad. It's incredibly bad. It only tells you what your professor's opinion is. It doesn't tell you later on in the semester, and the stress of not knowing your grade and not knowing if you're failing or passing or basically anything related to your grade that as a new student last year I experienced. it does take away a lot from what you can actually put in. You don't know if you're doing well and you don't know if you're doing bad. And because of that, you can improve. So I think we should definitely move to pass this.
Legislator Freitas.
So to kind of restate stuff that has already been said, but like from my own personal experience, taking linguistics classes in the 3,000 and 4,000 level, as a second year student, I was very surprised as those classes didn't really give me any input, or at least the professors didn't give me any input on like how I was doing in the class, nor did they update grades during midterms, which, as was already stated, it's very stressful for students, especially in those upper level classes that tend to be more difficult. It's very important to have feedback from your professors and to like not necessarily have to reach out to them, even though it is a part of being a student to reach out to your professors. It's really nice when a professor who does have concerns about your performance reaches out to you, especially since that is a reflection of their teaching. I think it would be really good if we could possibly have those 3,000 and 4,000 levels added. And not to kind of ramble on, but when it comes to the like professors like voicing their opinions within like the first I believe you said 3 to 4 weeks. I think it would be good if we're going to have that to also have something maybe around the midterm to end term, like 3 to 4 weeks after the midterm, or maybe just after the midterm, for the professors to give their inputs on the students and how they're doing, and not just like or just not like a notification saying that your professor is like worried about it. To maybe have them expand more on like what the students can do, or maybe have like a one-on-one with each student, even if it's just for like 10 minutes to talk about like what they could do. I think that would be beneficial for the student. With that, I yield.
Legislator Maku.
So I just had a question. You mentioned that you talked with the AUP representatives, professors. They declined to endorse it, but they didn't necessarily oppose it. What were the specific reasons they gave for not endorsing it, other than it's likely reducing professors' autonomy?
I think the way the conversation went, we didn't really have the space to ask them, hey, do you want to sign on to this or not? It was more so them giving us advice on how to approach it in a way that would be easy for professors. So when I say they didn't endorse it or decline to endorse it, it was more so just because that part never really came up. I more so just wanted to address how they told us to approach it with that kind of thing. And the approach they took was just to tell us, if this is something you want to do, you might want to look at it from this perspective, because this is how the faculty is going to perceive it, and this might be an easier way of approaching that, so that if you're going to do this, it'll be easier on the faculty if you go about this way, and blah, 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 blah. So I say they didn't endorse it or reject it, mainly because the conversation never really got, it was like one thing on a list of things we talked about, so we didn't really have a lot of time in the convo to ask for a specific endorsement on it. I just wanted to address that this is what they told me to do with regard to it. Thank you.
President Johnson.
Okay, yeah. I also wanted to circle back and say, I will note when it comes to the early alert system, something Amy Pollard mentioned to me that she's noticed might be a bit of a tough part with the early alert system, is that when a student receives a notification from that, it's not from their professor. I think it's from like the sales system or whatnot. And students are very prone to ignoring those. So even if you do receive something, you probably aren't going to clock that that's what it is. Because how many, like, just a show of hands, how many of you read the email about the consumer reports that the university sent out today? Precisely. So when you get these mass type of emails, we're all kind of trained to ignore them. So I also I mentioned to her that something we might like to see is some way to allow professors a bit more of a personal reach out opportunity for that. And I will also say, for those wanting to include the 3,000 and 4,000 level classes, I just put on here what I thought y'all would be cool with. I'm always willing to entertain a friendly amendment if one of you would like to motion it. Because Vice President Matthews also wants it to include all undergraduate courses. So I put what I thought the happy medium would be. So if y'all wanna amend it to add that, go for it. I'm not gonna complain. I just put what I figured y'all might vibe with the most. I will.
Legislator Snell.
Okay, so I just had a quick question. As it stands now, you've mentioned this early alert system. How does that notification come to students? Is it an email? Is it just a letter? And two, following up on that, is there any specific thing it says? Is it, for example, this is the course, this is what where you're going wrong? Or is it just you're in danger of failing this course? You're in danger of failing a class, signed the university. Like, is there any indication in this letter what is going wrong? Or is the burden being placed on the students to follow up with professors?
So from the conversation I had with Amy Pollard, she told me that the way the system works is, it's called faculty feedback. So the alert system is what they put the feedback in. And the way it works is during that 3 to 4 week period, the professor will, I pulled up the thing she sent me. Gotcha. So in actuality, from what this is telling me, the professor will input their comments into the system, and either the system will email the student, or the system will email the academic advisor of the student, and that person will email the student about the concerns the professor is having regarding their performance in the class. Personally, I think that's too middlemanish. That's just my perspective. If I'm in the class, the professor can very much just email me and tell me they have this concern, but that's just me. Not everybody has to think about things the way that I do. But from what it sounded like, it's more so just an email, either from some university system, or it'll go to, or the system will email an advisor who will then email the student. An advisor that, if I'm not mistaken, a lot of students don't actually utilize in some cases. So that's another hurdle to address with that, but I will yield for more questions.
Before I move on to the next speaker, Alfred's a point of information. We have 3 minutes left on discussion time. Legislator Wolf, you have the floor.
Oh, it was just, is a potential point of order that I don't think, this, early alert system is very relevant to the substance of this bill. This is like going to perform a very different function than such a system.
President Johnson.
Yeah, I just mentioned the early alert system because the AAUP told me that was kind of like the only thing the university had in place that was similar to what we wanted this to do. So I just wanted to make it clear that we're not advocating to reinvent the wheel here, but make the wheel a bit more functional. But I definitely get where you're going with that.
Legislator Martino.
I move to add 3,000 level courses to the bill.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Seconded by Legislator Weekend.
I counted up.
Oh, objection counter to that motion. We will now move into debate on the motion. Legislator Wolf, you may go first.
With the nature of 3,000 level and 4,000 level courses, there's often a much different structure. 1,000 and 2,000 level classes often have weekly homework, weekly readings. Whereas 3,000 level classes can be entirely based upon, like a large project or a paper at the end. So I think that this may, cause some undue burden upon a professor to like try and predict the student's grade, which I think is not, which I don't think is appropriate. And I think in general, it's best to start with a conservative measure to see how it works and how it runs, and then we can explore such further options. But at this time, I think it is unwise to include 3,000 level courses due to the nature of the coursework in those courses. Some professors don't even have like papers or or like a midterm, oftentimes there might be even just a final exam.
Legislator Martino, you may respond.
Can I have a point of order, please?
Yes, Chairperson Smith.
I just wanted to point out there would be no need for this debate if the sponsor of this resolution would like to accept it as a friendly amendment. If I just wanted to give you the opportunity to, yes or no.
I'm more than happy to accept it as a friendly amendment, but I also recognize that you all are the ones that have to vote on that, so I don't wanna push anyone to vote on something they're not comfortable with.
Yeah, I just wanted to voice that because if somebody wants to disagree with the new amendment, they could just vote nay on it or something. If it's friendly, we don't want to waste our time doing this.
All right, once again, back to Legislator Martino.
I think for a 3,000 level course, it can be said where appropriate in the bill. But also to respond to that, as a freshman, I had a 3,000 level class in engineering, which could have easily had this sort of help. And we did not know 80% of the assignments we had already turned in until last week.
Legislator Snell.
I actually was wondering if there was any way to shift it from just 3,000 levels to, as Vice President Matthews was advocating for, all undergraduate courses. Because while I recognize that, say, for example, journalism does not operate the same way as poli-sci, which wouldn't operate the same as an engineering course, at the end of the day, it still is causing unnecessary harm, unnecessary mental harm to students if they cannot have access to an up-to-date grade, and thus prevents them from having a chance to improve. Furthermore, it actually directly would impact students who might need that extra time to learn what resources they have available on campus, such as students who might not be as familiar with the Academic Support Center, or students who don't know what office hours are, things of that nature. Having it only be for the first 4 weeks doesn't actually give students much of time, and I really would like to see it expanded to all undergraduate courses.
Legislator Snell, if you'd like to make a further motion, we are currently discussing the motion to add only 3,000 level courses. If you'd like to add another motion after that, you may. Legislator.
Point of order. She can request an amendment to the motion. And if it's a friendly amendment, it's a friendly amendment. If it's not, it's not.
I apologize. Is that a friendly amendment, Legislator Martino?
Yes.
All right. Legislator Fayette.
Yeah, so I just wanted to kind of talk about the higher level courses and like the concerns that were brought up by Legislator Wolf. I do feel like they were valid concerns. The only thing that I see is having all undergraduate classes as a benefit to the student body. Well, I can see in some classes that do have huge projects that could be worth 60% of the grade. That kind of midterm setting point still does help those students. And at least in my experience and with people that I have talked to and their experiences in their majors, it would have helped them if their professors did that for them, as they did have other assignments and readings to do while they were in class. I feel like adding 3,000, 4,000 level courses, I know we're on the discussion of 3,000 level, but those courses would be beneficial to the student body and wouldn't be too much of a pressure on the faculty, but we can obviously have more discussion on that, as I feel like that is a valid concern. And with that, I yield.
Majority Leader Bremer.
I just wanted to bring up some food for thought relating to some of the Senate conversations that happened regarding the withdrawal policy that was brought up at that last meeting. And I bring that up because part of the discussion was the fact that a lot of students, really didn't understand where they were halfway through the semester in terms of grades. And one of the biggest concerns in discussing that withdrawal policy is that some classes, especially primarily the upper level classes, typically some of them have year-long projects, so they don't even get a grade until the very end of the semester, which makes those upper level classes a lot more difficult to implement this with. And I'm assuming that if we're working with the provost in this, that it would likely go to Senate. So with that being said, I think that in terms of creating the most tangible change, I would begin with just the 1,000 and 2,000 level classes, just to make sure we can 100% get that ball rolling and that we don't get caught up in smaller details when we could actually make that tangible change. But I know that President Johnson was there for that conversation. So with that being said, I will yield.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to concur with what legislator Fayette had to say. And I share legislator Martino's point of view that a one size fits all solution may not work since classes are so different in their structures. However, I'm concerned that if we use the wording where appropriate, that makes it too subjective and allows professors to violate this rule in effect without consequence. So if we're going to include exceptions, we should make sure that those exceptions are very clearly laid out in the language of the resolution.
Legislator Wolf.
I believe we should ask for something very concise and targeted, which the bill is already at 1,000 and 2,000 level classes. If anyone here has ever attended those Senate meetings, as Legislator Brummer and President Johnson has, if we make the ask too complicated, it's going to get so convoluted and butchered through the committees and, voting in the Senate that this may not even fly. So I think it's best that we keep it concise, keep it targeted, and, start with, one step at a time. I yield.
All right, as a point of information, we have 1 minute and 45 seconds left on debate time. Legislator Fayette.
Yeah, I kind of just wanted to say, I would like to point out that this is also a resolution, and as I mentioned before in a previous resolution, and kind of to agree with Legislator Wolf, I think as it stands now, we can work with what we have in this resolution and expand upon it later when we actually take action. And with that, I yield.
Legislator Snell.
Just wondering, is it possible to motion to table this discussion and also see if in the future we can meet with AAUP, bring that AAUP leader, such as Amy Poehler or others, who discuss this policy further and thus get the voice of professors to see what is attainable. I feel like they would have a lot more to say on the 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 level and how feasible it is than we might even realize.
I'll ask that any motions to table wait until we return to discussion on CR 6803 as we are currently discussing a motion to amend it. Legislator Martino.
I agree with them. If anything, I would like to change this motion to just say that we will be looking to 3,000, 4,000 classes later. I think this needs to pass. And for that reason, if I have to withdraw my amendment,
Are you saying you would like to withdraw your amendment?
Yes.
All right. With that, motion to amend the line to read all undergraduate level courses has been withdrawn. We will now return to discussion on CR 6803 with 3 minutes left on the timer. Legislator Snell.
I would like to motion to table CR 6803 just for the time being, and then come back to it at a later time and hopefully get a discussion with AAUP leaders in as well. But if not,
Second to that motion.
Second. Counter.
All right, seconded by Legislator Lunger, countered by Chairperson Smith. We'll now move into a discussion to table CR 6803. Chairperson Smith, you have the floor first.
Thank you. I'm very much against tabling this resolution. As President Johnson mentioned, he has a meeting with the provost on Friday, and I think being able to work on this, the provost being able to work on this and trying to formulate what this might look like sooner rather than later, as we are well within summer 1 and summer 2 is nearly here, and of course the fall is approaching. Very slowly, but it's approaching. It's better to start working on this process sooner rather than later. And of course, since we hold weekly meetings, this means we're have to hold it off for another 2 weeks, and that means something. I think we are way better off if we are to pass this now, and I'm against any sort of tabling. With that, I yield.
Parliamentarian Bella. Parliamentarian Bella, if you're trying to speak, you are muted currently.
Oh, sorry, my microphone was muted and I started rattling off. So in parliamentary procedure, tabling would probably not be in order. That would be for something that we get back to later in the session, but we're already over time. And I've seen us do this in other meetings, but what we should probably be doing is motions to postpone indefinitely. But I already spoke to Clover about this. I'll try putting out materials explaining more about this. But that's just my thing.
All right, Parliamentarian Bill, are you then motioning to, or are you ruling this motion out of order to table?
That I'm advising you on how the parliamentary procedure is, so that's your call to make.
I would like to raise as a point of information that a motion to table only lowers it to the table for a point or a time during said meeting and will be raised again during said meeting. A motion to postpone would be putting it to the table and killing it until a future meeting. Legislator Wolf.
With the Senate, the best time to introduce something was yesterday. Additionally, with how tumultuous higher education can be, especially at a time like this, it's best to get this to the attention of the Senate, before another issue is raised and this is, no longer a concern. If we get this in front of them as soon as possible, we get ahead of any other things that could arise in the Senate and have attention already made to this resolution. I yield.
Legislator Frias-Tata.
Yeah, I would just like to say, kind of just to expand on what has already been said, the longer that we take to pass these resolutions, the longer it takes for us to get to the stuff that actually matters, which is not only a disappointment to our student body, but it makes it harder to do our jobs because it's postponing so much. Taking this GBM, for example, we had so much to do for this GBN, and the fact that we have gotten this far so early amazes me. And I don't think we need our next meeting to be just as long, for Carolina's sake. So I don't think we should do any more tabling until we get the kind of like formalities out of the way. And with that, I yield.
Legislator Snell.
Okay, I just wanted to explain a bit of my reasoning as to why I wanted to not table it. It was the other motion, parliamentary. And Bella, do you mind repeating it? Sorry.
Point of information, Legislator Snell, you did motion to table this bill for now, which will mean we raise it back up during this meeting. If you'd like to change that to motion to postpone, you may.
Yeah, I wanted to motion to postpone it, mostly to get that professor feedback, because I feel that even though, yes, it is imperative we pass these legislations just to make some change, I fear that if we're just going to be rewriting this to then include or write a secondary bill or measure to include the 3,000 and 4,000 level courses later, it then just gives it a second chance to get killed at the university Senate. It gives it more of a time for us to be able to say, hey, you guys didn't think it through the first time, so we're just not going to implement it. I would argue that it is imperative that we take the time to truly think and flesh through everything we put up, even if it takes a while, because we owe it to our students to be detailed, and we owe it to the student body to not only make sure everything is as detailed and orderly as possible, but as well as the best it can possibly be in order to have the greatest chance of success. With that, I yield.
Legislator Martino.
I would like to disagree with that, saying in the logic that if this passes, and is a success, then future endeavors to push this forward should be seen as successes.
Legislator Wolf.
Once again, if we overcomplicate this bill, this will cause it to, like, it will become more likely to fail in Senate, and I think, once again, we must humble ourselves and go to this perspective, is that we're imploring the Senate, we're asking the Senate for something. We cannot demand something of the Senate, and, with that, with an ask, we must, be realistic and, look to the, ability and, process of the Senate and how that may happen. And I think it's best to keep, this bill more targeted on a very, on this issue of 1,000 and 2,000 forces. I yield.
Legislator Markowitz.
So I think I might be able to provide some insight here because I've met with Amy Pullard from AAUP. I've also presented to the University Senate twice and had them vote on one of my resolutions. And I also work with faculty more than anybody else in Student Congress. Faculty will tell you if there's something wrong with your resolution. It's happened in the past where I've written a resolution, sent it out, and they're like, yeah, we don't like that. That needs to be changed. And so if they are at least neutral to it, since Marcus already brought it up to AAUP, and they didn't have any like immediate concerns with it, especially considering that this is something that something that Amy Thompson herself wants to champion, we go forward with it. And I might have missed that it was going before the Senate, but I didn't hear that in the first place. But regardless, if it's something that she thinks is important, I think all of us think it's important. We just want to make sure that we have everybody's voices heard. But in all honesty, I think Marcus has done a good job of already doing that. And I think at this point, then it's just a little bit repetitive if we just keep going back to AAUP and saying, "Are you sure that it's good?"
Johnson.
So a couple of things I wanted to bring up just so that we have for clarification's sake. We have not confirmed that this will definitely go to the Senate, but it is within the realm of believability that it will, because they tend to handle a lot of things, especially these types of policies. I will note, I presented this resolution at the request of the provost who oversees the Senate. So if it can come to the Senate with the endorsement of her office, I have a feeling they will be much kinder in considering it. So personally, I feel like it's more advantageous for us, for me to be prepared to go into my meeting with her, because I only get 45 minutes, by the way. It's not that long of a meeting if you think about it. So if I can go in there and tell her, we've discussed it, we voted on it, this is what we're prepared to work on, it gives us a very firm starting ground, especially because we have a new provost. She's not had the opportunity to do too many things with Student Congress in the past. So I think if we can show her that we're willing to be quick with taking the initiative on these types of things, she will in turn be more receptive to talking to those who are overseeing the Senate in her stead on seeing to it that this type of thing gets before them as soon as possible. Because as Legislator Wolf has mentioned, I've been to one of those Senate meetings, and A, they can be tiring at times, because B, you wouldn't believe it, but they do a lot more debating on things than we do. And I was very surprised to learn that. I know Majority Leader Brown witnessed it too. And I would also agree with her. Part of the reason I only put the 1,000 to 2,000 level courses thing on there was because I was operating under the assumption that this will go before the Senate Steering Committee eventually. And I'm trying to frame it in such a way that they will not poo-poo it, because I'm getting tired of them doing that. So those were my points. I will yield now.
Point of information, time has now expired on discussion. Is there any motions to extend that?
Motion to this to a vote, if that's in order, parliamentarian
All right.
fellow.
I will call that out of order, but we will still move into a vote. And currently we are voting to postpone indefinitely, CR 6803. I'd like to raise as a parliamentary inquiry to Parliamentarian Vella, what vote is needed to postpone indefinitely a piece of legislation?
Just a majority as far as I know. I'm flipping through right now. Yeah, just a majority.
Okay. And we'll move forward on a roll call vote to postpone indefinitely 68, CR 6803. Majority Leader Bromer,
Nay.
Chairperson Smith,
Nay.
Chairperson Waters,
Nay.
Legislator Freyette,
Nay.
Legislator Snell,
Yay.
Legislator Van Patten,
Nay.
Chairperson Valdez, Parliamentarian Villa,
Nay.
Legislator Barris, Legislator Dreswicki, Legislator Aveza,
Abstain.
Legislator Lunger, Legislator Maku,
Nay.
Legislator Markowitz,
Nay.
Legislator Martino,
Nay.
Legislator Mason,
Nay.
Legislator Obra,
Nay.
Legislator Christandaro,
Nay.
Legislator Rosario,
Nay.
Legislator Wiegand,
Nay.
Legislator Wolf.
Nay.
All right, with that, the motion to postpone indefinitely CR 6803 has failed. We will now return to discussion on CR 6803 with 2 minutes and 30 seconds left on discussion time.
Point of order, just make sure you rename the voting item on the sheet, just so.
I will do that. All right, Legislator Freyette,
I would like to motion to vote.
I second that motion.
all right. With that, we'll move into a vote on CR 6803. Majority Leader Brummer,
Yay.
Chairperson Smith,
Yay.
Chairperson Waters.
Yay.
Legislator Freyette,
Yay.
Legislator Snell,
Nay.
Legislator Van Patten,
Yay.
Chairperson Valdez,
Yay.
Parliamentarian Villa,
Yay.
Legislator Barris.
Yay.
Legislator Dreswicki. Legislator Aveza,
Yay.
Legislator Lunger,
He has left.
okay. Legislator Maku,
Yay.
Legislator Markowitz,
Yay.
Legislator Martino,
Yay.
Legislator Mason,
Yay.
Legislator Obra,
Yay.
Legislator Christandaro,
Yay.
Legislator Rosario,
Yay.
Legislator Wiegand,
Yay.
Legislator Wolf.
Yay.
All right, with that, CR 6803 has passed. Funny story, I just ran out of places to put roll call voting. For record's sake, I'm making a second slide just for more roll call voting sheets.
Well, that's the day we run out of spaces.
Apologize for that delay. With that, we'll move into discussion on CR 6805. This is presented by Chairperson Smith. Chairperson Smith, you have the floor.
I haven't presented something in so long, I miss you guys, oh my gosh. All I can say, turn the lights off outside. That's nice. I'll keep this brief, but still try and give the attention I believe this resolution deserves. This is the second time I'm proposing this, resolution as it passed in January or February of last, term. I can't remember. It's a long time ago. There's a lot of stuff that happens. So, Chair, could you strike the, this right here? I wrote this resolution before, President Johnson wrote his last term, and so I included that, but now it's kind of like, that just doesn't make much sense now, because his is meant to be more broad, and we just passed it, so I removed that from the.
I would like to request Chairperson Smith, I have editing
I
access.
will give you that editing access. Just request it like you did last time, I'll approve it.
All right, and then, just for clarification's sake, you want, the line and diversity, equity, and inclusion to be cut out of this resolution?
Yeah.
Okay.
Madam Chair, point of order. Does changing a written legislation like that require a formal amendment?
Since it is a friendly amendment made by the sponsor, it does not.
You be given access. So what this is essentially is a resolution to advocate and reaffirm student Congress's support for the transgender community. In the recent months, a lot has happened for the community in which I'm proud to be a part of. A lot of bad things, a lot of things that makes a lot of people's lives a lot worse, a lot of people's lives just a lot harder, and it's made mental health in the trans community plummet. I've unfortunately known a lot of my trans friends who've struggled recently, and a couple who have even committed suicide in regarding a lot of these struggles. And so what this resolution essentially is a sort of statement from OUSC to say to the transgender community on campus that we love you, we support you, and we're here for you, and we'll continue to fight for you amidst everything. With any of those questions.
I believe programs should also be struck, because that was affixed to the diversity and equity.
Is that a friendly amendment, Chairperson Smith?
Yes.
Any other points of discussion on CR 6805, Chairperson Waters?
Thank you. I just want to, I know I'm a supporter on there. I voted for this last term. Nothing has changed, in my own feelings on this bill. I personally will, support my trans siblings no matter what. And that includes voting yay on this bill. So I hope you'll all join me in doing that. With that, I yield the floor.
Legislator Pietza.
I would just like the motion being added in supporter of this bill. I don't know.
Would anybody else like to be added as a supporter at this time?
I would.
Okay, it's gracious.
Returning to discussion, Legislator Pietza.
I would also like to see if OUYDSA could be added to the list of supporters.
OUYDSA. It's OUYDSA?
It can be both, it doesn't matter.
That was against those silos.
Any other points of discussion on CR 6805? Director Westhicky.
May I be added as a support too, please?
Anybody, any other points of discussion on CR 6805? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and go into a roll call vote. Majority Leader Bromer,
Yay.
Chairperson Smith,
Yay.
Chairperson Waters.
Yay.
Legislator Friatata,
Yay.
Legislator Snell,
Check the chat.
seeing nothing from Legislator Snell, Legislator Van Patten.
Yay.
Chairperson Valdez. Parliamentarian Bella,
Yay.
Legislator Barris. Legislator Treswicki,
Yay.
Legislator Eveza. Legislator Lunger, also privilege. Legislator Maku.
Yay.
Legislator Markowitz.
Yay.
Legislator Martino.
Yay.
Legislator Nason.
Yay.
Legislator Obra.
Yay.
Legislator Prashandaro.
Yay.
Legislator Rosario.
Yay.
Legislator Smith. Point of privilege, my bad. Legislator Weekend. Legislator Wolf.
Yay.
All right, and with that, CR 6805 has passed.
Oh, sorry, just got back. Yay.
I apologize, Legislator Snell. How would you like to vote?
Yay.
Legislator Veza, for the record, is voted yay. I apologize, I did not see those in the chat. All right, still CR 6805 has passed.
Madam Chair, point of information. On the most recent vote, did Legislator Mackenzie Smith not vote?
Legislator Smith has taken a point of privilege.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, moving on, we'll be going on into discussion. Seeing none, we'll be moving on into legislative updates. First up is the Speaker of the Legislature, Speaker DeVore. Hi, that's me. All right, guys, that was really good considering we had tabled everything previously. That was 6 pieces of legislation and 5 approvals in 1 meeting. Martin, thank you. All right, guys. No, but that's really good. I'm glad to see that we're, you know what, getting through some of the stuff now. That hopefully relieve some of the burden off of Chairperson Valdez a little bit. I know she's still got a little bit of a backlog, but you know what, we're starting to work through it. Couple things from me. Thank you everybody who came to the training event last week. It went very well. A reminder to anybody that was not at that event, per our bylaws, you are required to go through one training with it's either the research or review committee, it's me probably. But we're required to do that at some point, so if you weren't there, just hit me up with an email, message on Slack, I don't really care. We'll get that set up at some point. Going in with that, I started setting up the legislative one-on-ones that I sent out an email about previously. If you have not filled out that when to meet yet, please do. I got about half of you scheduled already. Some of you have, I talk to you every day. I don't need to have one-on-ones with some of y'all, but, let's see, moving on with that. Orientation table has been going on. It's been going very well. Make sure you're signing up for that if you're interested. Chairperson Smith would really like it if some other people would do it with her. Trying to see if there's anything else for me. Not really. Let's just keep working on good meetings like this, guys. 2 hours and 2.5 hours. You know what? We got through a damn lot. Good job, guys. Moving on, we'll be going on to updates related to legislative leadership. I first saw a Majority Leader Bromer. Majority Leader Bromer, you have the floor.
So I just wanted to bring up really quickly, and I'll send something in the Slack later this week as well. But as I mentioned previously during this meeting, there is a Senate initiative going on where some members of the provost office are working to make the withdrawal deadline later in the semester, which would give students some more time to look at how they're performing in the class and allow them to make a more informed decision before they do so. So I have a meeting with that administrator next week to talk about how we can integrate student experience and student voices with why this might be important for student success a little bit more. So that's going to be Monday, June 2nd at 3 p.m. In East Wilson Hall. So if any of you are interested in joining me for that meeting and talking a little bit about how we can support student success in this way, please reach out to me on Slack. I would love some people to go with me.
Chairperson Smith.
I'll use the mic I'm primarily supposed to this time instead of going up. All 5 of the people I wanted on the Judiciary Committee were approved. That's so cool. I'm very happy to have everyone who's approved today on the Judiciary Committee. I'm excited to get to work, especially since we have a lot to go through. If you happen to miss last GBM and didn't submit an excused absence form, then you received a passive aggressive email from me telling you that you should do that because it's really easy and there's no reason not to. But we have a lot better attendance for this meeting than we did last meeting, and I'm very happy about that because that makes my job a lot easier. So yeah, just a reminder that if you are going to miss a meeting or miss several meetings, please fill out an excuse absence form. And if it's like a thing where you're like, oh, I'm gonna miss a bunch of meetings, I'm going on vacation, just text me. I'll mark you as excused for only one excuse absence form. It's a deal of a lifetime. Oh yeah, most of what I have been doing for the past 2 weeks has been orientation tabling. If you look at the sheet, my name is on almost like every session. I have done a lot of orientation tabling. If anybody wants to join me, go to that sheet, sign up. It's super fun. The incoming freshmen you talk to still have souls, so it's like really fun to talk with them. And yeah, so if anyone has any questions related to anything judicial, you know how to reach me. I've said several times. With that, I yield.
Chairperson Waters.
Thank you. I just wanted to first off say congratulations to all those who were approved for the Judiciary Committee. Yay. And second, I got to do some my own little advertisement. I have a committee. If you are interested in the Community Support Committee, I would love to talk to you. I know there are some people who have reached out to me already saying that they were interested. I want to schedule meetings with them. But if you are interested, there are no limits to how many people can be on it. So I mean, you can join. I'd love to talk to you. With that, I yield.
All right, Chairperson Valdez.
Okay, first of all, thank you everyone for going through this agenda so smoothly. I thank you all. I swear I'm gonna cry right now. I'm still working on the guidelines with Speaker DeVore on how we're gonna manage the steering committee. So if you have any interest in joining, please let me know and reach out. Also, do not forget to send any items that you want to put up on the agenda by Thursday or Friday. I will not put them up for the next meeting though, because I already have the agenda made and it's a lot to go through still. But I promise I will as soon as I can. So thank you, that's all.
Are there any other updates related to legislative leadership at this time? Seeing none, moving on, any updates related to legislative projects and initiatives? Also seeing none, are there any questions related to legislative reports? Chairperson Smith.
Yeah, less of a question, more of a statement. I just wanted to thank Chairperson Valdez for being so kind with the agenda. When I asked to put 5 people up for approval in one meeting, I felt very guilty. And I felt like karma was going to kill me one day. So thank you very much. And I'm glad we got through the agenda very smoothly. With that, I yield.
All right, any other questions related to legislative reports at this time? Seeing none, we'll be moving on to the liaison report. I do not see any liaisons in the room at this time. With that, I'll be moving on to executive reports. First up will be student body president, President Johnson.
Hello, I'll be giving my and VP Matthews report because she's not able to make it today. For her report, I'll just say that she's been helping out our SAFB chair with the interviews for their people. I'm anticipating we'll be seeing some of those approvals coming before y'all soon. In my neck of the woods, we do finally have some e-board members. Because our agendas are very long, and I do not want to give the steering chair a brain aneurysm, we've decided to hire them in an interim capacity, because I get a little wiggle room on how long they can be hired for until I have to put them up for approval. So we've got a little time to thin our agendas out. I'm expecting that their approvals should be before you by the next meeting though. With that, I will also say you can welcome Director Losecki for that note. I met with the Dean of Students this morning. We had a conversation about directory information. Now, I'm telling you this because I told him that we would have this as an item of discussion at some point soon. And I believe either him or someone from his office is gonna come to one of our meetings in the fall to talk to us about this. Apparently, what ends up happening is every year when our students graduate, elected officials want to send them like personalized letters and all of that jazz to their homes. But because the university does not have that information on the directory, they are able to readily provide that information to them. And the initiative to have that information removed from the directory was apparently orchestrated by Student Congress. So he wanted to meet with us to discuss, what are our thoughts on it? How is that something we'd like to deal with moving forward? I've mentioned the notion of like having an opt-in, opt-out system, so letting the students decide, hey, I'm comfortable with you using this information for this, because I've come to find students appreciate it when they have control over that process. Because Vice President Matthews also brought up the notion of concern about solicitation. And if you give this information to these elected officials, are they gonna use it for campaigning purposes and this, that, and the third? So how do we approach that with being able to have a lot of safeguards in place for student information? Like I said, I'm bringing it up to you now so that you know it's a conversation that will be had eventually if you wanna think about it a little bit. Especially because I also have to have a look at the school's FERPA guidelines and all of that, just to see to make sure we're not discussing giving away anything that is classified as protected information. To that end, I also brought up to him the notion about, because I know a lot of students have their legal names in their emails that do not line up with their preferred names. So I asked him about the idea of how we can go about allowing students to get those changed to either reflect their preferred names, or if they prefer to just not use a first name at all and just more so rely on the last name. He told me he's gonna take it up with the chief IT person for the university and get back to me, so I will let you know what he tells me when he talks to them. Which is gonna be helpful. I'm glad we passed Chairperson Smith's resolution, because now, when I follow up with him tomorrow, I can show him that we've already, started discussing this type of thing. These are why these resolutions are so helpful. I met with VP McIntosh a couple weeks ago. I gave him the data he was requesting with regard to the Free Menstrual Products Initiative. Our hope and prayer is that in the future, they will be willing to take on that initiative and institutionalize it. Apparently, he has to talk with the unions for the people who manage all of the buildings that are not the OC. And I had to give him numbers as far as costs and blah, 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 blah. So I just have to find time to go nag him to make sure he received that information from me. As far as our constitutional proposals, it sounds like he just has to present them to the board. First, he needed me to give him something so that he could understand what we wanted him to tell them. And I sent him all the requested documents he got, which I have to make sure he received those as well. On another note, I can confirm that the university is moving forward with our student activity fee measure. So I am going to see if I can get both either him or VP Mackey or both of them to come in and offer a better in-depth explanation as to why they want to do it over a 3-year period. Something a lot of folks had questions on. So he said to just give him some dates and he'll let me know when they're free to come by and offer us some info on that. I think that is all I truly have for you. Oh, I lied, 2 things. Secondly, if you should have received an email from me recently, if you have been approved to work remotely. It took a lot of haggling, but it was the latest batch. I haven't had time to send it. Give me a moment. I should make it known and make it quite clear. VP McIntosh does not like remote work and does not like giving it out by any stretch of the imagination. So I guarantee you, when I have to go to him, it is not easy to get him to agree to do it, as long as there's a clear reasoning. So if I've messaged you to ask for more details about a request, that is why. Because I feel like it's easier to talk to him about it if I have as much information as possible to give him about your situation and explaining why it is necessary for you to have said remote work. I'm gonna let you know now, over the fall and the winter, do not expect anything in regards to this. He's told me openly not to come to him about it, so. I will warn you about that now, but I'm hoping, and so far, he's given a bit more leniency over the summer, so thankfully, there is that. Finally, I got an email this morning, actually, from there's this committee called the E-List Committee. So these are the people who work for the Director of E-Learning and Instructional Support, or as, and the lady put this in the email, as we better know them as the Moodle people. Apparently, they have an advisory committee that allows students to offer input, especially on how asynchronous and hybrid learning is had, and traditionally, we have 2 student seats that are available to serve on this committee. So I'm advertising it to you all. If that is something you would like to take advantage of, let me know, so that I can email them and let them know that you're the ones who would like to do so. With that, I will now yield the floor.
All right, seeing as Vice President Matthews is not here, we'll be moving past her report. Any updates related to e-board projects and initiatives, since we have an e-board member now? Seeing none, okay. Any questions related to executive reports? Chairperson Smith.
Yeah, I just wanted to say 2 things. One is a point of information, because I know this is the type of thing a lot of people ask me after GBM, and then I go, oh, yes, this is allowed, you're dumb, stop talking. Earlier, President Johnson referred to hiring any board member intermittently. Yes, that's allowed. The president can hire an e-board member and appoint them for 3 general body meetings before they are approved. That is something specifically that I made sure was intact and also expanded upon last year, just in case a scenario like this where agendas are super busy. So it's good to know that my forward thinking actually paid off. And also, when it comes to President Johnson's current effort to try and have it so trans students can change and get their legal names out of their email, I wish him luck, because this is something I tried as well and was essentially met with a stone walls of no over and over and over again. So I wish you a lot of luck with that idea.
President Johnson.
I will say, something I've noticed that has been very effective for me when I'm dealing with people who I anticipate are gonna tell me no. I shoot straight for the highest person I can reasonably talk to, because they have a harder time telling that person no than they have it telling me no. So there's a big difference between someone telling me no and telling VP McIntosh no. If I get him on my side and he decides to pursue something on his own, then I'm gonna tell him no. But if I go to them, they can say, oh, well, we don't wanna do that, which means that I have to keep going up the chain and up the chain and up the chain. So with this specific issue, because I know how much resistance you've faced on it, I decided to see, well, I'm already on this call with the dean of students. So why don't I just bring that up to him, and I'll let him see if he can take this on with me, because he'll get a lot farther than I can. So this is one of those, I'm not trying to pass the buck, but I feel like we can get farther if there's someone other than us pursuing it, so I'm just trying to see if this approach will get us somewhere. And look at that, he's going to the head IT person for the whole university. So here's hoping that that works. I don't know what answer I'm going to receive, and I'm not gonna guarantee that I'm gonna like it. If I don't like it, you most certainly will know, because you'll probably hear me yelling about it in the office. But I will keep you apprised, nonetheless.
All right, are there any other questions related to executive reports at this time? Seeing none, we'll move into the update from the OUSC advisor. Advisor Miller, you have the floor.
One suggestion to you. You have passed several bills or resolutions I think are extremely important for the university community to be aware of. I would suggest an old-fashioned way that outside the office, that you post these for people to read. You have a lot of individuals that are particularly in orientation. They need to know how much you're advocating for the student body. And I know it's kind of an old-fashioned way of doing it, but if you could post them outside the office, especially when the office is closed, that everybody can see it and see how productive you are being thus far. So just a suggestion to you. Thanks.
President Johnson.
I have a question, Advisor Miller. I don't know if we've done this in the past, but if we were to maybe like draw up a graphic of some sort of it, or print it out in some way, would we be able to have it displayed in the OSI office in any way? If not, it's fine, we can put it outside of ours. I just know oftentimes more people will come to that office than ours.
Well, in our hallway, got a lot of stuff on display there, and I have no problem in helping you to have that display.
Chairperson Smith.
Yeah, I just wanted to, second that. I love, Advisor Miller's suggestion, especially because if you're in the office a lot, especially in the summer, you realize how many tour groups go by the OUSC office every single day. Is dozens of people who walk past and look at the stuff on that little desk we have in front of the office, and look at the stuff we have on our windows that have been sitting there for too long. I think it's a wonderful idea, and I think we should do that like as soon as possible with that.
Any questions for Advisor Miller at this time? Seeing none, we'll be moving on to comments from the gallery. Are there any comments from the gallery at this time? Seeing none, we'll move on to announcements. I'll only make one announcement. Congratulations on passing the first legislation of the Johnson Matthews administration. Are there any other announcements at this time? Seeing none, we'll move on to adjournment. I adjourn this meeting at 7:48 p.m.
Have a good night, everyone.
Probably like.